Hi, Dave from Song here, and today we're going to put some of our reading practices in action. I have 3 different studies. Almost all the information you need are in the titles. So our first one, 010101, what does that mean? That means that throughout this whole sheet of music, we're only going to be using our open strings and our first finger on our left hand. So all the notes you see are either going to be an open string, G, D, A, or E, or our first fingers, A, E, B, or F. Take a look, for instance, at the first bar and then the second bar. You'll notice that each pair of notes are just kind of one higher than the other. So our first note is our open G, right? We start at the bottom. And then you see the next note, we add our first finger. That gives us our A. And then there's a bit of a jump, right? So that jump is to the next open string. And then we add our first finger, and we do the same thing. So a lot of the time in these studies, you really just have to be looking for whether the next note is higher or lower than the previous note. And if it's higher, and you're on an open string, it means you add a first finger. And it's higher, if it's higher and you are on a first finger, you know it's the next open string. And the same thing for if it's lower. So the other thing that these studies practice are a bit of rhythm. So you'll see it starts off with just straight eighth notes, just nice and steady, but then eventually you'll get to bar 5 and you'll see a quarter note. So if you're counting in eighth notes, then you have to wait 2 beats on each quarter note. Then in the next bar, you see there's a dotted quarter note. All of a sudden now we have to hold that for 3 beats. So one other thing that really helps with these is something called a metronome. This is what I use here. You set up the tempo. You can see there's the number there. So right now it says 80, but if I raise or lower the dial, it goes up or down. And then it keeps the time for you, right? So there are lots of free metronome apps that you can download on the phone or an iPad, or if you prefer a real metronome like this, you can go to your local music shop and spend, $5 and get a metronome. And it really helps because it tells you how long to play all these notes for and keeps you nice and steady. And the more you play with a metronome, the more you build that internal metronome. You can kind of imagine one later on. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to play through this first study so you can hear how it sounds, and you can play along if you want. I'm going to set my metronome to 80, and then you can hear how that sounds. So the 80, each beat is going to represent an eighth note. So I'm going to be counting this in eighth notes. So like I said before, when we get to quarter notes, they're worth 2 beats. When we get to dotted quarter notes, they're worth 3 beats. And then if you look at the last 2 lines, we have some 16th notes, which are a bit faster. So we'll actually play 2 of those 16th notes per beat on the metronome. So here we go. This is how that first study should sound. I'm going to start the metronome. I'm going to wait for 4 beats, and then I'm going to start on the 5th one. So here we go. Ready? So 1, 2, 3, 4. So one thing you might notice near the end of it as well is that all of these 16th notes, we have 4 of them that are all connected with lines. So we have groups of 4 connected with these slur lines. So all that means, those of you that maybe haven't seen a slur before, is that you keep moving the bow in one direction while the fingers move to make the notes. So for the first one, you see in bar 10, it starts on G, and then we add our first finger, and then we keep the bow moving in one direction, but you just kind of roll it over to the D string to play the open D, and then you add the first finger. So in slow motion, that would be like this. So you see how I started at the bottom of the bow and I just keep moving it towards the tip, even though I'm playing 4 different notes. Open G, first finger for A. Open D, first finger for E. Let me show you that one more time. And that's it like that. So when you're connecting 2 different slurs together, we finish those 4 notes, and then you just move that bow the other way. So if I add the other set of 4, it sounds like this. So you have to be, it's all about timing with slurs, because you get to the end of the bow, and then you have to change strings, and then start the bow moving the other way. So you have to sort of, you keep the bow moving this way and you change the angle while it's moving, and then all of a sudden we have to change strings, so you have to change the angle, but without moving the bow, because we have to start a new slur. The other 2 studies, little sheets, exercises, are written exactly in the same way. So they start off, on our lowest string, and but the only difference is instead of using our first finger, use the second finger. Otherwise, it's exactly the same. So here, let's go through now the second study. I'm going to start the metronome the same way. You'll hear 4 beats, and then we'll start. And now, instead of using our first finger, we're using our second finger. Here we go. So ready? 1, 2, 3, 4. Very good. Okay, so you see it's written exactly the same rhythm and everything. So without further ado, let's try the last one now, which is just all our open fingers, or open strings, and our third fingers. So here we go, same thing. I'm going to start the metronome, and we'll play through. 1, 2, 3, 4. Good. Okay, so just one last thing I'm going to say about these things is something I always like doing when I'm practicing in this way is I always like to have my other fingers down to support the finger that I need. So what I mean by that is that when we're adding our second finger, for instance, not only am I going to add the second finger, I also like to have my first finger down there too, just to kind of feel like it's supported. Just like if you're going to hang on to a handrail or something, you're going to use more than just your first finger, right? You want to use your whole hand, your whole grip. And so I usually feel that way about the left hand, is when I'm adding the second finger, I like to have that first finger along with it. And same thing with the third finger. Have that third finger down. You have your 2 and your 1 as well. So we're doing 0-3, 0-3, and you can be kind of landing all your fingers where they're supposed to be going at the same time. It's a really good way to practice kind of all of your fingers at once. So I hope this is helpful, and I hope you enjoy playing along. And if that speed, that metronome speed, is a little bit too fast in this video, go ahead, download a little metronome app, and you can slow it down or speed it up however you like. Or if you just have a clock, then that's a nice slow speed that you can time all your notes with the ticking of the clock. So, without further ado, that is all. Goodbye. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and click that bell to turn the notifications on.